So, have you noticed that everywhere you go nowadays, they want tips? Almost every place where you go to buy food, the cash register asks you for a tip, 15, 20%, even more. And I'm a person that tips. If I go into a restaurant and my waiter or waitress, they bring me my food, they smile and they say nice things, and after they bring you your food, they come back to the table and say, "Is everything all right?" And you know what good waiters and waitresses do. I tip, and I tip generously a lot of times. But what I've started to notice is almost everywhere you go, and these are not places where you go in to sit down and dine. These are places like Shake Shack, Five Guys, Buffalo Wild Wings. Well, Buffalo Wild Wings, you can't sit down in there and eat. But for me, I went to a Buffalo Wild Wings last night on my way home from work. It was late, about 9 o'clock, and sometimes I'll go over there and I'll pick up, some boneless wings, and I'll go home and eat and then crash out. So the machine asked me for a tip, and I said no. I'm not into giving tips just to give tips because one, you don't even know where your money goes to. The machine is asking for it. And it started after the pandemic because before the pandemic, before the lockdown, every you only gave tips when you went to a restaurant and you sat down and ate. But I noticed, during the pandemic and then after the pandemic, the machine started asking you for tips. I mean, do am I wrong to not want to tip someone that just rings me up for a hamburger? And then sometimes it's places like Starbucks or a local little coffee shop or a bakery or some place that you just go in, grab something, and leave right out the door, and they're asking for a tip. And I think that is outrageous. I think it's kind of crazy because why would you just add an extra 15 to 20% onto whatever food you buy? And I think gratuity, tips are gratuity, right? Your gratuity. I guess you're gracious for the service. But if you're not getting a service, then what are you tipping for? Or what are they asking you for? Sometimes I just want to ask the question, but I know, the people behind the counter, they're just working and they appreciate the tips that they get. And, sometimes, there'll be a little tip jar there at places like that. But I think that the machine putting it on there, I think I'm uncomfortable with that. And I'm not a stingy person. I tip, but I don't tip like that. I think it's almost like they're just raising the price of food 15 or 20%. Like what do you think? Like, do do you just tip any and everybody? And I know once in a while you'll, like, there's this sandwich store that I go in often, but I never sit down and eat. I always order a sandwich and then go pick it up and then head on to wherever it is that I'm going, or just go in there and grab something and come on home and eat it. And I know the guys in there, and every now and again I'll throw some money in a tip jar. That I'll do. But um, these machines asking for tips nowadays, you know what? I think it's crazy. And I guess with with waiters and waitresses and restaurants, A lot of times the restaurant will pay them less money because they get tips. I don't think that's cool either. I think they should be paid a wage, the average wage that everybody gets, and then any tips that they get for good service, that should benefit them. I don't think restaurants should leave the paying of their employees up to the customers. No, we don't do that. Or I don't think that's right. I just don't think that's right. I think that um, companies should pay their workers. And if they get tips, then they get tips. But to sum it all up, man, this tip thing is getting kind of crazy, and I don't like it. It makes me feel uncomfortable as a consumer. Like, what do you think? Let me know your thoughts.